So Jerry, thank you again for joining us. As I'll just say it again, we thought we'd break this into three pieces. The first is to talk about current trends you're seeing in foreign direct investment. As we've been talked about, we're going through an age of disruption and complexity, and what you might have said a year ago, I suspect will be different now. Second is to focus in particular on foreign investment in the financial and related professional services sector. And the third is to look at how the sector can help you in what you're trying to do. So let's start at the beginning. What are you seeing at the moment?
Well, first of all, can I thank you for having me with you today. Apologies, I'm not there in person. I caught COVID when I was in New York doing an investors roundtable a couple of weeks ago, so I'm still trying to shake it off. But coming to the question, it's incredible. I don't think I've ever seen such investment interest in terms of coming into the UK. The sectors which are extraordinarily active at the moment, I think I would call out life sciences. I call out net zero, which of course following this morning's announcement about our new energy security strategy, I think is going to be even more attractive to investors, and tech in all its various manifestations. Now that is both really good, but also really important to us. Overseas investment is incredibly important to the UK. We're probably the most heavily overseas invested of any major economy, and it's very important to us because it's not just the economic flows that you get in the first instance. It's the fact that overseas invested businesses are often more productive than purely domestic businesses. They generate more exports, and they generate more IP. So we gain a lot of advantages from having overseas investment coming in. And I think it's quite striking the number of places that it comes from. For example, the Prime Minister and I held a round table with a dozen big Australian investors just a week ago, and they announced at that round table £28 billion of investment commitment coming into the UK, driven largely off the back of the large superannuation funds, the supers down in Australia. So a tremendous amount going on. It makes my job sitting at the centre of that very interesting, as you can imagine, and it's a great benefit coming into this role, having had so many years' experience working with the TheCityUK, working in financial services myself. So a lot happening, and I think today's announcement is going to just mean there's going to be even more happening.
Both exciting and encouraging. If we dig down just a little bit, and we think about the financial and related professional services sector, we are, as it says in the title, services. And when we think about foreign direct investment, we tend to think about bridges, infrastructure, we think about shiny factories, and we can all get our arms around that one. The other 80% of the economy is harder. So what helps with related professional services, financial and related professional services, is things like decisions that encourage people to work in the UK. It's decisions to move balance sheets for green finance or whatever. It's investment in fintech, in AI, and so on. Mark Tucker talked earlier about the international strategy, and the headline conclusion of that is that it's a strategy which is focused on what we thought, having talked to industry, to regulators, to government, were the key developments that were likely to be at the centre of the centre of things for time to come. There were four things. There was data and technology, there was sustainable finance, being a hub for international investment, and being at the heart of risk management and advisory, all topics we've been talking about just now. And in that context, Jerry, how do you see in your role that we can capitalise on those trends?
Yes, certainly. Well, first of all, increasingly, I don't really draw a distinction between FDI, foreign direct investment, and capital investment. If you look at the impact of the two forms of investment, they really merge together at some point. When I look at our financial services and professional services industry, I suppose I see them from two perspectives. First of all, as one of our most major and successful industries in their own right, there's a constant, need to encourage more investment into that sector itself. I think that perhaps we haven't done quite as much of that as we should in the past. So, I very much welcome what the TheCityUK and your colleagues do, Edward, in terms of making sure people around the world know what the opportunities are in financial and professional services. Then, of course, you have the fact that virtually all investment touches financial or professional services at some point in its journey into the UK. So the sector, as well as being a consumer of investment in its own right, is also one of the best enablers that we have for bringing investment into the UK. And I'm always very, very keen to work closely with financial and professional service firms to assist them. And of course, it's one of those areas where self-interest on all sides benefits from this if we get it right. Then, of course, as you mentioned, you then have the role of the city itself, still one of the most effective global markets in the world, a great position in green finance. So again, the role of the city in providing capital, again, as an enabler into these investment projects is incredibly important to us. And then you can stretch that into listings in the UK. Listings in the UK benefit us in all sorts of ways. Again, they bring a direct benefit to the financial and professional services sector through the work that has to be done by lawyers, bankers, and accountants to achieve that. But also, of course, once you have a company listed in London, you've got a long way to anchoring it in the UK for going forward. So lots of manifestations there. I think one of my objectives is to constantly, from our part of it, from the government's part of it, increasingly professionalise how we handle that, what we do in terms of working together, and actually always taking a very practical view of it. When I came into this role, I was struck by the number of what I call investment aspirations across government, but not many of those aspirations were making it into being investable projects. And what we're doing more and more of now is involving professionals such as we have with us today, involving investors, and applying what I call the investor lens to policy making, to make sure that when we do bring out new policies, like we have this morning on net zero, we have baked into those new possibilities from the start the creation of investable projects. So it's a very, very multifaceted role that I'm describing here.
Interested that you talk about capital investment as being indistinguishable in many ways from financial investment. What about people? Because a lot of what we do is actually anchored around people. In your role, how do you see people playing into the game plan?
Yeah, it's incredibly important, and I mean, my role is to act as almost like a pressure point, within government, working with the Office for Investment, which we've established in 10 Downing Street, working with the Investment Directorate in DIT, to make sure that our colleagues elsewhere in government really understand the importance of people. And now I see that again from two perspectives. One is mobility. One is bringing the people into the UK that we need to continue to build our sector. But also it's the whole skills. It's the whole skills agenda. How can we upskill our people to play an increasingly large part in this? So people are very important. And of course, the other thing that's really important, which we haven't touched on yet, is place. Virtually every investment has a place associated with it. So you have to make sure that place has the skill sets that it needs to develop as an investment destination.
And if the pandemic's taught us one thing, is you can work from anywhere. So if people want to work here, they will come here. So last thing in this area of it, as you travel the world, as people come to see you, what do they see as the UK's strengths, and where do they express concerns?
Yes, I mean, of course, a lot of the strengths are, kind of self-evident. I think the professionalism of the UK, and I think we have to beat a loud drum about the professionalism we have in the UK. And people in the room today or on the screen are very much part of that professionalism. Of course, things like the rule of law, but I would also, I think, call out our drive towards net zero, and the way that we are approaching that is that's what throws up these investment opportunities. For example, just a couple of days ago, I was participating in an offshore wind European conference where we had delegates from all over Europe, and the panel that I was sitting on there was really drawing out the fact that in terms of ease of access, the opportunities, the UK, frankly, is massively ahead of other countries in terms of the opportunities that it generates. So I think it's the people, it's the professionalism, it's obviously the legal structure, it's the predictability, et cetera, et cetera. But also I think increasingly what we're trying to do, as one would in any client basis, any client business, and I look at investors as, my clients, the government's clients, is to do proper contact management with those clients, keeping in touch with them, making sure you understand what they want, easing their path in. And I think, again, that's becoming an increasing part of the UK offer. And we certainly need to do that because, of course, we're not the only country trying to attract overseas investment. I often say that attracting overseas investment is one of the most globally competitive sports that there is. And it's not quite hand-to-hand fighting. But often when one's looking at large investments, rightly and properly, multinationals with not much trace of sentiment do the work they need to work out what's the best investment location for the investment they're thinking that they want to make. So understanding that is vitally important. And I think we all have a role to play on that. Coming back to the point as to what the spin-off is from overseas investment into the city, into the professional services, and in a sense, we all benefit if we can get this done.
I see the power of you as a salesman, Jerry, on that one. So you've put the politician's license to ignore the second half of the question on where foreigners express concern.
Jump into that. Sorry, I was dodging it. Gosh, I'll jump into that. I think they lost a bit of confidence in the predictability of some of our regulatory regimes. And we've been working hard with the regulators, who of course are properly independent, to ensure that the regimes are predictable and are easy to access. Because again, a lot of the investments that we're talking here have a 5-year, 10-year, 20-year time horizon. And predictability is a very, very important part of attracting that investment. And I think, particularly in the run-up to Brexit, I think people found that confusing. I think it got to the point where they didn't really mind what we decided, as long as we decided something. And then, of course, we got straight into COVID. Now, of course, we've moved into the terrible, terrible war in the Ukraine, which is going to have profound implications, I think, for a long time going forward. And what we've had to really rebuild is that trust in what we're doing and our predictability. So that's something which I would be self-critical about, that we hadn't done as well as we needed to have done in recent years. See, I didn't dodge the question, Edward. I just forgot about it.
No, well, that was a very fine answer to it. And I think trust, predictability, maybe I could add openness, is going to be increasingly important. And then sort of a final few words. What can we in the sector do to help you in ways which maybe we're not doing quite as much of at the moment as we could?
I think by working closely together, and again, something I think, again, we lost a bit of sight of, and it suddenly struck me a few months ago that I was paying more attention to the Ontario Teachers' Pension Plan than I was to some of our great pension funds in the UK. So you can understand that the heritage of DIT was international investors, but I have a very, very firm conviction it's bringing UK domestic investors into these opportunities is also very important. I think we lack collective vehicles sometimes for doing that. I would like to see more, innovation coming out of the financial and professional services sector as to how we can attract domestic capital into these opportunities. And it comes back to what I was saying earlier. How do we professionalize our offer to investors? How do we present it in a way that's most likely to increase their propensity to invest? And I think the skill sets in the TheCityUK, in the city, are absolutely vital to us in getting that right.
Thank you, Jerry. Having learnt that I need to raise my voice, you're going to have to clap very loudly indeed to thank Jerry for his superb performance.
Along today, Edward. Just sorry I'm not there in person.
Well, I hope you get better quickly. Thank you.
Thank you.